Okay, very brief introduction. You've probably seen this before if you've been watching all of these videos. Everybody's going to get general scoring comments, a word or two about layout, overall quality of texture. I generally give about 5 to 7 minutes to these entries, but I've been giving a little bit more time lately. So, this particular video is an example of that. So, Facebook participants, blah de blah de blah. I really just care about this. Comment on each other's scores with feedback and support. Okay? All right, so that's all we need to cover for right now. And if you haven't seen this yet, just freeze this frame. Otherwise, let's get on to the evaluations. Now we've got David's piece, sort of as our first piece of this video. And it's kind of fun. There are a few problems, a few things that you can fix here. One is, once again, this is kind of turning into a bit of a mantra now. And that is that I feel people are doing them a disservice by interpreting the piano's slurs in the left hand as sort of as the gospel. Okay, and I'm really finding more and more that I hear people slurring the left hand parts, like there, and this here, the bassoon slurring up to the clarinet as an interpretation of the clarinet's left hand. I'm just finding more and more that it kind of bogs things down. It sort of doesn't really have the same impulse. Do you know what I mean? Now here it's fine when everything kind of combines together, but I'm feeling that there's something being taken away from the drive of the music. I know that it sounds a little strange for me to say that this piece has drive, but it really does have a kind of a very forward-looking, kind of a pulse, kind of a push. And that's really what gives it its charm, right? So I'm really always looking for ways to have that charm come out more in everybody's score. Now, here you have a problem. You have a slur. It almost looks like a tie because these are the same note, but you're crossing three separated notes. So you really need to put if you want this to be portato and you want it to be sort of like, right? Then you have to put either a staccato mark or a tenuto mark, probably more like a tenuto mark for portato rather than a slurred staccato. Do you know what I mean? Because you're slurring across rests, all right? And that just really looks funky. So you have to give some kind of articulation that shows that these are separated. Otherwise, the cellist is just going to play this all as one long note. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now here you've set up a slurring pattern that sort of crosses the entire two bars. But here we see right away that you are articulating these slurs in the wind part as separate pairs, right? So why can't the violinist do that too? It would really help their bowing, because what they're going to sound like is and so on. Do you know what I mean? So it's it's sounding like this in your recording, but it's not going to play that way, right? Just really think about what your players are going to do. Same thing here, same comments here as with the cello part, right? You can't just slur across notes that are separated by rests. Okay, you have to add like a tenuto mark for portato. So, but other than that, it's kind of fun. You are, when you get to A, you are sort of you're blending the two together. Do you know what I mean? The flute and the violin. So they're really, you go through an entire episode of this without any discrete sound except for the bassoon playing here. The bassoon stands out from the texture of the strings because it is its own part. The same with the clarinet when it comes in. But there is no melodic part that is really completely all its own thing for quite a while, at least in terms of the winds playing. Okay, until you get to about here. And this is all right. Now, there are numerous wrong notes in this in the playback that I was noticing, and in looking at the looking at a lot of these accidentals, and you really might want to just check that out and check it against the score. And I'm sure that Nicholas in the Facebook group is going to point out some of these too. But yeah, just if it was your intention to introduce new harmony into the existing score, that's fine. But it just really does sound very strange, especially when we get to a cadence. When you resolve to a minor chord as you do later on in the piece, rather than a major one. It just sounds a little off. Now here you have a nice flute solo, and then you back it up with a violin. So what's going to happen here is that the flutes are going to disappear into the violin, or the flute, I should say, is going to disappear into the violin when you get to here, and then reemerge, And I'm just kind of wondering whether or not this couldn't have been taken over by a different wind player, rather than just being a very, very long flute solo. Staccato marks would really help here for to give some impulse to this, right? Rather than just going boop, 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 but to really have to go tick, 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 just really have more of a bite to it. Yeah, so if everybody else is P, you should mark P, right? Right? If trombone is P and bassoons are P, then these guys should also be piano, or even mezzo piano if this is piano, right? Because the trombone is just going to be very fat sounding. So, or maybe you could make the trombone pianissimo and everybody else piano. Okay, this is all good. Now, once again, you're really just giving all of the melody to the flute, and the first violins, and there's a big gap here in the second violins. The second violins could be doubling your oboe and clarinet, which you're doing the little harmony thing here. They could be doubling them, and just strengthening that whole, and making it more homogeneous in terms of the, like a more smooth kind of orchestral accompaniment. Whereas this will sound very, very chamber-like if you leave it the way that it is. I'm wondering, I'm just thinking again about some of the wrong notes in here, and I'm wondering whether or not some of them are due to scoring in, transposed scoring, because some of the wrong notes are in the horn part. And, that maybe if that is the source of it, that you were scoring in transposing by ear, and just came up with a few, like added a flat where you didn't need to. Like there are some, like there's a G flat right here, which is wrong. So, so, so back to the Appassionato. I thought this was a lot of fun. You can give yourself, you can do a smaller staff size. This is really cool the way that you did, like a portrait size, which really, really helps me. This is like about the biggest score that I'm able to show on this screen, because it's in portrait layout and you don't have a huge, sprawling type of layout. But, really, honestly, you shouldn't let your markings blot out your notes, right? It should be the other way around, if anything. So this is just a really huge, surging, powerfully strong tutti, which, when you consider how light everything is before, I just wonder if you even need the brass, or maybe just a horn in there. Certainly the bassoons, if these are two bassoons, that's enough, really, to add punch here. Contrabasses. It just drives me crazy. Double basses can be in octaves here, divisi, and that will bring a lot of strength to this part. And it'll also double the bassoons and make them smoother, right? As opposed to this being, the way this is now, bassoons and trombones are going to really stand out from the texture, unless they're doubled by a string, right? They're going to just really be kind of honky or buzzy, right? Unless they are moderated by something else. And I mean, you could even like not even have the double basses be that low. You could have it an octave higher if you wanted, or you could have, yeah. All right, I'll just move on. Yeah, so this is kind of cool. Octaves in flute and oboe with, doubled by first violins and the violas, and clarinet doubling this one line. Now, see, this is actually an octave. This probably should be an octave as well. Some kind of expression. You could do divisi octaves in second violins, right? And if you had two clarinets, then you could do the octaves there. Yeah, and then you've got horn doing this, like yet an octave lower, right? And so there's nothing in the middle. Okay, so yeah, doubling the horns, right? Now this could start. Do you know what I mean? This could start right here, right? Just because there's a bit of a dropout in the piano part doesn't mean you have to drop out in the orchestral part. Yeah. So anyhow, I've spent a little too much time on this. The rest of it is pretty cool, except for some what I feel are accidental misspellings. You want muted horn on this last thing, just keeping in mind that it is going to be a buzzy kind of a sound. It's going to not have that same nice straight mute sound of the trumpet or trombone. It's going to be more of a closer to a stopped sound, but not quite. Yeah, and this is all fine. So yeah, so nice score. It was a very interesting read. There are a few balance problems that I didn't address. I'll leave that up to some of our other entrants if they're going to come and comment on their scores, and I hope you comment on theirs. Okay, so nice work. Really, really enjoyed this. Next up, we've got Harry's piece or Harry's arrangement, and this was really fun. Do you know what I mean? This had a lot of imaginative ideas and some really good scoring in it. A few things that are a little over the top, but we'll talk about that as we get to them. Now, first thing is I love the contrast between bassoon and B flat trumpet. That was just really nicely done. The bassoon taking over the melody at the beginning, and against the violas, just sounding almost as if it were another string instrument, because of just the warmth that is lent to the bassoon line right there. Okay, and then the bass clarinet doubling the cellos. Just such a nice touch. And then the winds coming in chorale to support what's going on in the strings while the trumpets play, or the trumpet plays a solo. That was just really, really classy. And also good balancing. If you're going to play against a trumpet solo, then things need to come up to mezzo forte at least. And this was all really good too. Now here, I know I've been crabbing about flutes being combined with the violins too much, but here it works, and the reason why is that it is a setup for this more sweeping part right in here, where you have got cellos playing at the octave with the first violins, and then the middle strings sort of in the middle of that, and then the only thing I missed was some support for the cello. You could easily have you don't really need so much weight on the top line by the oboes. You could have had the oboes down an octave supporting the cellos, but it still worked. Okay, it would, but that's just is going to be really a lot of weight up there. And moving on, A2 flutes. Finally, they make their own entrance. Oboes up there harmonizing, and then the clarinet doing this. I would say, like, if this is going to be pizzicato, then you should be going staccato at the top here, okay? and that would just blend way, way better with the second violins. And then having this sort of come out of nowhere, that was really fun. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Oboe solo with the clarinets doing the same kind of thing that the oboes did just before. That was also very cool. And once again, staccato at the top of at the top of this slur would be good. And this was, yeah, I just really loved the timpani in there. That was a really nice choice. Yeah, now here, you can say "ah-tu" all you like to the flutes, but nobody's going to hear them until they get to right around this B flat. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, once again, massive weight. You have four, looks like, yeah, four wind instruments on that top line. I mean, it works in a sort of a band instrument way, but yeah, I don't think you need quite that much weight there. Keep in mind that "ah-tu" oboes is just a very, it's just a very, almost a harsh sound, really. It is almost a trumpet-like sound, which we saw in the Rachmaninoff Isle of the Dead lesson that I had about a week ago. You could just really hear it, that it had a very cutting sound. So it's not going to be quite as delicate there. I mean, better to go solo here and then "ah-tu" here. Okay. All right, and then meno mosso. A lot of people are not getting that this is where you slow down and have something big. And, Harry did it, and it sounds really great. So you've got your double octave here. Now, why isn't there any support for the violas? Do you know what I mean? You've got a triple octave here, but you only have a double octave here. You just have the clarinets and the oboes punching the same line. Why shouldn't clarinets make a great team with the violas. It just really has a great, they're a very complementary sound. They're almost, talk about combining, when those instruments double each other and you have a nice healthy viola section, then the blend is almost, undetectable. It's almost like bassoons in their their lower middle register and cellos that can be a combination that is undetectable. Yeah, so this is all scored pretty well. You have the brass doing the walk down and the everybody else doing this big sweep plus the bass line. So that's all good. It just really is a lot of weight suddenly, but you do set it up well, previously speaking. And I do like this little chorale here at the end and the way the horns take over. And it sounds to me like you've got a lot of experience with brass, and I also sort of see by your profile picture on your SoundCloud account, you're playing a band instrument. So yeah, so this is all very cool. It looks like you're playing like an alto horn or a baritone horn. So look, this is just over the top, my friend. I cannot, in a live situation, it's really going to be hard to hear what everybody else is doing. And I think it's just too much. You could go boom, boom, boom. Percussion is a kind of spice, right? When it's sort of used as a textural sound, and it just feels like you dumped the turmeric all over the end of this. No offense, but yeah, everything else is great. Really liked it a lot. Good use of brass, and nice scoring ideas. Don't overweight your melody lines quite so much with everybody. That's more of a band thing than an orchestra thing. And yeah, really lovely touches by xylophone. I felt that some of this could have been up a bit, just because you start to lose, the xylophone can get easily swallowed when it's in the staff and this stuff is going on. So it's okay for it to sound an octave higher than it should be. So anyway, that was really cool. And oh yeah, one more touch was the vibraphone. That was really classy. So that's all I got to say about this. Great work. And just go ahead and finish the piece and see where it gets you. Okay, so here is another really nice score. And yeah, And nice, I like the page in the front telling me exactly what's at play. Thanks, Jonathan. So, um, just looking at this, viola's getting the melody, and cello's doubled by bass clarinets once again. English horn, and yeah, you got this. These little pedal tones here, going through it, by by the horn, first horn, and lots of support by horn, which gives us a very kind of a very meaty type of sound. Do you know what I mean? This is octave flutes and English horn, which it just has there's a slightly circusy feel to that particular tone, especially since like you're going to have English horn doubled or doubling the violas, and then the flute is going to be an octave above that. So you're going to hear a lot of overtones, and in fact, in general, throughout this piece, there are a lot of octaves thrown in different places, which are going to have a slightly calliope or slightly organ type feel to them. So if you want to avoid that, I would say watch out. Now right here, you just get really dense with your harmony, and you throw in your rhythmic instruments, the bass instruments, which are providing the pulse, and you throw that right into the harmony, and basically I feel the piece just sort of comes to a halt. Right, the momentum suddenly stops. Yeah. Now, if you really wanted this this D to stand out, you can always go like you can have divisi on some of these instruments, like the cello could handle that with divisi. It's this same D here, just in order to keep the pulse going somehow. But I just felt that things kind of came to a bit of a halt there. And now once again we've got octaves, a flute above, oboe below, and then here it becomes more homogeneous when you go to two flutes. Kind of wondering why, it's nice to have the trade-off just for fun, but just in strict terms, it could have been just as easy to just keep it octave flutes all the way through. Now, since there is no, this is where you get the circusy sound from once again, and that is that the strings are not doubling the high pitch. The flutes are playing above it, right? So you get the strings doubling first the oboe and then the second flute, and then when the little flute is above, it's really just a very kind of like organ like, because it is an exaggeration of the overtone of the main melody, which is going to be felt in this octave, right, rather than the one higher. That's just all. And then, of course, like with so much support, like so much harmonic support from the bassoons and the horns, which, by the way, this is a very cool idea in terms of harmony, and and also, of course, throwing in the second oboe. With this much support from winds in terms of the harmony, and very little from the strings, that also is going to contribute to a kind of a more circusy sound. Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't want to overdo it on that, but that's what I'm hearing, and it is coming through on your playback too. This is a beautiful idea right in here. You get an A+ for that. This was just lovely the way that this came in on the end of everything else that was going on. Yeah, also kind of interesting that you kept this, this turns into a triple octave now, right? Just really a lot of emphasis on that. This is nice. This boom, boop, boop. Yeah, so the pulse was very nice through here. Good flute solo. Very cool coming in here with the clarinet and bassoon. I would say, to sort of help out everybody. I mean, I know that in the Ravel, the Rachmaninoff Isle of the Dead lesson, I was explaining to everybody about how the publisher of that particular piece didn't feel that there was a need for instrument names to the left. But please keep in mind that, all manner of composers and orchestrators at different levels are going to be reading your piece and trying to help you out with it. So please do put instrument names to the left. Please don't leave it blank. I mean, I can read this fine. This is no problem for me, but every once in a while I have to just make sure and go over and check. Whereas if I had that sitting in my peripheral vision, I wouldn't even need to take that split second to make sure that I was telling you the right thing. All right, so please do include instrument names to the left. Yeah, but this is neat. Clarinets and bassoons. I like that a lot. Which are basically supporting this violin line, and then oboe coming in. Yeah, that's all nice too. This is very nicely done. Now here, mezzo forte crescendo and mezzo forte in the horns. This could be marked P, and you would get a blend right here. If you mark it mezzo forte, this is going to be the sound of the horn plus somewhere in the background a little bit of strings, right? So, yeah, you need to balance this way better. Yeah, then we get to our build up and then the appassionata. And yeah, things get really huge here. You got your triple octaves already going on here. So horns doubling the violas, clarinets on the seconds, and flutes. I mean, you are almost already here at C when, by the time you get to here. So, and then you really pay off with huge, like an enormous tutti here. And that's all good. That's all fine. Yeah, now here you don't really, you sort of spell out your glissando. That's all right. That is a standard way of doing it, but you could just put, origin note, destination note, and tuning, right? Which just saves you a lot of fiddling around. But good pulse in here, and I feel that it's over the top, but that is cool. You do justify it, and this is, I have to say, this is nicely scored right in here. With your oboes and English horn. Taking this little counter melody going through here, which is eventually supported by the violas. And then the bass line is all cool right there. Yeah, so yeah, I mean it's very nice. I mean you get a huge amount of sound without having a huge brass section. So and you don't try to play, you don't try to throw harp in there where it won't be heard. There's a lot to recommend this score. And then nice cool down with violas. And did you notice this really just stuck out no matter what you did on your mix when you were preparing this? And it just really is going to be like that in real life too. It's almost better to have everybody at a softer dynamic before you get there, like mezzo piano or piano, just to really cool off here. When you get, by the time you get here, it's at a much softer, more easygoing dynamic. So you're taking the total strings approach here. So the melody, horns, and low clarinets, but here you mark solo. This is basically a harmonic part, and it will stand out. The horn player is going to assume that you really want this to, like, hey, you're telling him solo. And here you've got your poor viola player who is just, your viola section is just trying to make this stand out against this single line of horn, and it's just not going to. Kill the solo, mark this P, and then everything will balance. Otherwise, if this isn't solo, like here you also mark this solo, which is really going to stand out over this. So if you wanted to solo those lines, then I forgive you, but I do have to say that it is going to be a complicated passage. But you do keep the energy going, and that has a lot to recommend it. This, then you've got a little, this is nicely scored. That's good. That's good. And this actually was surprisingly nice. Like, you really give a lot to your violas, and that is a very polite thing to do. this should be marked down, though, if you are going to give the violas any kind of solo. And you should mark it solely, I think, in the face of this kind of accompaniment. And yeah, that's all good. And this worked out good. I liked the whole idea of bassoons, then bass clarinet, and cellos. All right. And I don't think you need to do this. Just having your... I think you can do all the cellos pianissimo. I don't think you just need to have the first desk doing this right in here. I think it will just be inaudible with just two players. So anyhow, that's my thoughts on this. Nice work. Okay, so this video is going to be a little shorter than the others. I've been doing, anywhere from 5 to 7 composers per video. So this one's just going to be 4. And it might be a while before I do another reading video like this, or just like reading through your score. Maybe like 3 or 4 days, because I've got another video to get out for the community. But yeah, there are some thoughts that I have looking at this and having looked at other huge scores. And that is, I think I am going to institute a rule where you just really have to combine your staves, because if you're looking at this on a laptop screen, it just probably looks completely unreadable, right? And even on my big 4K screen that I've got recently, this is just really small. So, and a lot of this is just doubling or things that could be expressed as intervals. Do you know what I mean? This is just, this could have been done in 2-voice writing, and this could have just been done as unison, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to put it up on the group as well. I just would like combined staves for winds and brass along the normal lines. So you could have a third staff for your third trumpet, but please, trumpets 1 and 2 on the same staff, and horns 1 and 2 on the same staff, 3 and 4 on the same staff, and so on. And all of the standard winds on the same staff, on one staff each. It just makes the staff size gets to be so small, right? And you should also, like, even if you just have a layout with with like 20 staves or something like that, you should be making the staff size larger so that I can read it, and I can read it, but I mean so that I can display it on a screen at a better size. So, anyways, that is my little rant. But it's no offense to you, Michael. You are turning in the score like, I didn't really put any restrictions on it, and you did fine. All right. So I'm not getting on your case, but I'm just really realizing that with the format that I'm reviewing things, I can't keep getting scores that are so vertically huge, and which makes the staves so tiny. Sorry, it's early in the morning here. Yeah, so you start off here. This is really nice. Fairly good scoring. I like this whole kind of, this is actually going to be jaunty for the cello, because you're just really, you're jumping up a seventh, right? And then right here, you're really going very, very high. I feel this whole thing should be written in tenor clef, and it's almost unnecessary, really, because you already have the violas grabbing this high note. I mean, you could just as easily have scored this, except for the G flats. You could have, going on from here, it could have been scored for, it could have, this would have been better for violas almost. So yeah, I mean, it'll work. It's fine with a good cello group, but. Yeah, now here you go on, and you go up an octave with the melody and everything. You sort of take a very similar approach, and it's sort of doubled now, right? You've got double the force here. And once again, you're like many other orchestrators, you're slurring your bass line. But, since you have this kind of very jaunty approach to your, slurring from the end of the dotted group into the next rhythmic group. So, so you're going bum 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 bum. So that gives a little bit more respect to the pulse, and you kept it consistent with the wind accompaniment, and that is great. Okay, but really, I mean, it couldn't kill any of this to just have staccato up to the half note, or pizzicato. So anyhow, but I liked it. Good use of contrabassoon, and moving on. Now here, I just felt this was really barren. You're doing some things with the harmony in this piece, and I don't know if that is by error or by design. There's a lot of harmonic changes that are different from Ravel's, and you can really hear them. They really stand out almost immediately when you do something that Ravel did not score. It's just very, very audible, very noticeable. Okay, and you just have to accept that. If you're going to change, Ravel is perfect in the way that Mozart is perfect. He has that level of harmonic perfection and structural perfection. So if you leave something out, or if you add something, or if you do something in a different way, just immediately you notice it. And one of the cases that proves that is right here. There's no harmonization here, as there is in the original part, and boy, you can hear it. This is really high. You want pianissimo from your oboe, and you're up on a high E flat and then up to F. This is where the sound of the oboe becomes kind of more, not really piercing or penetrating. It actually can weaken up here, but it has a kind of a tense sound. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of an intense sound. So you're not going to get a beautiful combination here, no matter what the sound sets are telling you. It would be easier for the oboes to come in here on D or on E flat, or rather than to, pianissimo on right here. The oboes are going to just not blend very well with the oboe is not going to blend very well with the flute. I just don't feel that is a very good sound. Clarinet and then bassoon an octave lower. That's all good. But there's sort of a lack of harmonization in the middle. I mean, you could have easily gone flutes A2 and then oboes just doing a little bit of harmony in the middle, and it would have immediately felt more right. Do you know what I mean? Not that there's anything really right or wrong, but there's a certain rightness to sound. Now here you're going for, once again, very, very high entrance for the trombone. This is really more of a trumpet part right in here. If you want it to be soft and controlled, right? Because what are you doubling? You are doubling your violas, right? And this is just you're not gonna hear violas. So if you were to balance this, then you'd have to drop this to pianissimo, and then you're asking the first trombonist to play pianissimo very, very high. And it just doesn't feel very. This is more of a. Like, if you're going to mark this really soft, it would be more of like a trumpet part. And the trumpets could easily do it with just, without any thought. Now, same thing here. You have your B-flat trumpet playing piano up to a high C. It's a nice idea, but it's not, it doesn't work in real life. Okay? And, French horn, this is fine. F accent is going to be more mezzo piano, mezzo forte, but that's what you're going to get anyways, right? With this, so that's not bad. But yeah, still, I think this needs a rethink. And some of the harmony in here is different from, certainly as we go on, there are more and more places where the harmony changes. And this is cool. I like this. All good. Good trumpet writing. Good French horn. Nice. I like the slurring. Pretty much throughout this, the slurring is for breathing and bowing have been pretty good. Okay, and then finally we get to the appassionata section. Okay. You know what? It's another thing, just keeping in mind that people are going to be reading these scores and I'm going to be displaying them on the screen. It wouldn't kill people to to make this the last bar of the page, so I can see the entire section, starting from the beginning of, the new episode, right here at the beginning of the page. Just a thought. Make things, more displayable. And it's also easier on the conductor, too. They'll turn the page right here, and then they can see everything in front of them. Here, boom. In Sibelius, that's basically you just select the bar and you go command return. And I don't know what it is in Dorico. I think this is a Dorico score. Yeah, so anyhow, let's get to this. So you've got your melody being played as a harmonized melody, okay? And it sounds a little weird, but it's all right. That's all right. You wanted to add some harmony to this. And it pretty much works, but what we're missing is that downward walking thing, right? You've only got it in your trombones, and that's it. Do you know what I mean? It might be one or two other places. Yeah, and also like the cello. Okay. Now this is just definitely not going to work. You probably have already been cautioned about writing like this for timpani by other people on Facebook. I didn't read the Facebook comments yet for your post. But yeah, this isn't this. This. The thing is, I mean, there's actually going to be an orchestration tips book, the number, part 2, and one of my tips is going to be that timpani is not a bass line, right? Timpani can emphasize bass lines, or it can just emphasize the harmony of the entire thing, but just because it is a bass instrument, a bass register instrument, doesn't mean that it is a bass instrument. So yeah, I think working with a timpanist would clear this up right away. Yeah. Right there. Okay, so from here, your harmony becomes more and more parallel until finally, right here, it is completely parallel. Okay, now here is the problem with completely parallel harmony. It's almost like parallel fifths and fourths. What you start to hear in reality, not on sound sets, is you start to hear all of the... I'm putting my mouse cursor up here, just as an imaginary, here's where all the overtones live, above the flutes. You start to hear the shift, the phase shifting on the top, right? If you do completely parallel harmonies below. And it's a neat effect if you really want that, but boy, you're going to really hear it. So yeah, so just really watch out for that. If you just go completely parallel on the harmony, you'd get what some people would consider to be an unpleasant effect. This is really overweighted right here. If you're playing softly, this is going to be a wind band sound right in here. This is nice though. This is nicely scored. See, nice proportions. It was good. Yeah, I like this, and I like the use of soft trumpets. Right. Now, there is no need for this passage to crescendo into this, right? Because this is a contrasting passage. This is a contrasting gesture, right? Bum ba bum ba bum ba ba da dum. Ba da 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 da. See, this is a contrast. If you push into this to mezzo forte, there's no contrast, right? Except for just the textural one. Right? It's just like we can see it coming a mile away. There's no shock, right? Except for just the fact that, you got a tuba down here and suddenly the brass are playing. So yeah, watch out for that. Generally speaking, yeah, this is just a really big unison right here. Yeah, just you need half the horns there that you do, especially if you got violas. These violas are toast. Right? If you have this many horns playing at once and this much. And yeah, this is a really hard note for the oboes, this low B flat. I mean, they got it, but it's better to approach it rather than dipping down back and forth in fifths. You already have your clarinets. They're perfect for right there. They're comfortable. They could play it all day. Leave out the oboes here too. Okay. And this is neat. Oboe sort of floating down and bassoon taking over. You're going to need some kind of overlapping note. I would say actually have the bassoons come in a little earlier, like maybe on the C, rather than having the oboes go down to B natural. And this is completely unnecessary. Dipping over to contrabassoon. because the contrabassoon is a bit wheezy and unpredictable. See, I wouldn't trust my contrabassoonist, even if he were just like really, really great, to just suddenly to grab that and make it sound natural, as if it were one instrument, right? I just wouldn't. Just because this is happening in the double basses, which by the way is also unnecessary because this D flat is within the reach. It's in the reach within. It's like the next to lowest note for the cellos, but it is within reach of the cellos. So. You do want, I guess you want that low double bass sound, but here, yeah, I just feel it's unnecessary. Just stick with first bassoon is my advice, and this is all nice. And yeah, you could have had your winds continue to hold the harmony as this pizzicatoed rather than just cutting out, rather than, because that makes it just really feel like two separate things, rather than this chiming in to what's already going on, as it does in the piano part. Okay, and just, one last little thing here, and that is niente diminuendo. There's no such thing as a niente diminuendo for contrabassoon, except for them just running out of air naturally. But they don't go down to a whisper. You won't get whisper before you get nothing, okay? And you can sort of get it with the trombones, but what's the point? You just mark a pianissimo there, and you'll get exactly the same effect that you would otherwise. Save, please, everybody, save your niente marks for where it really matters, where you're really doing textural scoring and it is finicky, and you are really trying to get some kind of extra musical effect. Don't just use it here and use it there, offhandedly. See, this is exactly what you're going to get. Right, even with an instrument that can really do it, like clarinets and strings can really go down to niente. But but it's just really kind of, just don't spend that dollar. Do you know what I mean? Save that. It's like a fancy word in your vocabulary. Only use it when it just really, really works. All right. Otherwise, it's just a waste. The players will just go down to nothing anyway, but in the regular way that they do on a diminuendo. Okay, that's my comments for this. Nice work, all. And like I said, the next evaluations video may be a while in coming. It may be as much as a week because I've got a very big project ahead of me, and that is the Stravinsky Part 5. So yeah, and I'm really looking forward to that. So see everybody soon.